Is it a cinematic sensation? Is it a masterpiece of animation? Or a terrible train wreck like Jambareeqi check? If a movie needs an exorcism, he'll smite the demon with criticism. If it deserves attention, he'll give it a heartfelt mention. A strawberry rating 1 to 5. Jambareeqi reviews.
Howdy boys and girls, Jambareeqi here. Now, for this year's Halloween special episode of Jambareeqi Reviews, I was going to talk about Mad Monster Party. But seeing as YouTube is demonetizing any video with the slightest bit of dark content, and I have rent to pay for October, a movie about monsters is not going to be a wise choice, I'm afraid. This year's Halloween special will be a review of the Care Bears movie. Aww. In the Care Bears movie, an evil spirit manipulates an innocent lonely boy into making everyone around him into a mean person, and it's up to the courageous and generous sweet Care Bears to defeat this supernatural force. Will the power of love save the day? The Care Bears movie is about the Care Bears. They're very cute, very fluffy. The movie stars Mickey Rooney, and oh fuck this! It's Halloween! One of the best times of the year! I'm going to make this a really awesome spooky Halloween special, folks! Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here and welcome to the 2017 Halloween special episode of Jambareeqi Reviews. Grab your goblets of blood and your evil dolls as I review Rankin Bass's Mad Monster Party. Mad Monster Party is a stop-motion horror comedy. In this film, Baron Frankenstein has discovered a chemical that can destroy matter itself. To celebrate, Frankenstein invites all his monster friends over for a party, announces his upcoming retirement, and says that he will be passing on the chemical secret, as well as his position as the head of all monsters, to his nerdy nephew Felix Flanken. This makes the other monsters, and Frankenstein's secretary Francesca, very jealous, so they all decide to conspire against the Baron's intentions by killing off poor Felix. You know what? I was pretty excited about this movie. I mean, come on! Classic horror movie monsters getting together for a party? Sounds really fun, right? Unfortunately, this is a dated, disjointed, and dull movie. It certainly is a product of its own time. As you can tell, it's trying pretty hard to be hip and groovy, to appeal to the youth of the 60s. It's kind of awkward to watch from a modern perspective, because what was cool in the 60s just comes off as corny or out of date nowadays. It's also not a very funny movie, relying heavily on cheap, badly animated slapstick and very cheesy puns. This is the kind of humor you'd find inside a Christmas cracker.
I wonder how he got his invitation. He has an unlisted doom.
Sure, I managed to laugh twice, but that isn't much of a compliment for a 95-minute comedy feature. Most of the film is padded out with long, random scenes to fill the running time and stretch out what little story there is. It's like we're watching a sketch show more than a movie. Everything feels very slow, and there's so many scenes that could have been easily cut out. Sure, when the monsters do get to party, it's kind of entertaining and charming, but sadly, the party itself doesn't last long. A majority of the time, we're just watching the monsters fail to kill Felix or argue with each other about who should really be the Baron's successor. It's storytelling at its most boring and unimaginative. The movie does develop a romantic subplot between Francesca and Felix, but it's handled so awfully. Not only does it come the fuck out of nowhere, considering how Francesca has been trying to kill Felix for most of the movie, but do you want to know what sparks their romance? Felix slaps Francesca twice for being too hysterical. This makes Francesca suddenly fall crazily in love with Felix, and she randomly breaks out into a song about how much she loves him. I get that the filmmakers wanted to imply that Francesca has a dark, kinky side, and I understand that Felix only struck her in a bid to snap her out of distress, but showing two people falling in love because one hit the other is not the best way to illustrate a sincere, affectionate romance. It just comes off as messed up rather than charming or cute. Also, this is a kids movie! A dark kink is not going to translate very well for innocent, naive children watching, and basically teaches impressionable young people, if you slap someone, they'll fall madly in love with you. Or, if someone slaps you, it's okay, it's because they love you. Sure, this may have flied by with 60s audiences, but in hindsight, it's a pretty harmful implication to include in a children's movie, whatever well-meaning intentions Rankin Bass had at the time. It's weird enough that there's a scene where Francesca and the monster's mate strip off each other's dresses and have a fight. I'm going to give 1 point to the content. Felix is a very nerdy, timid and clumsy man, but he is capable of standing up to danger. While I do admire his bravery in tough times, Felix is quite annoying because his irritating doofiness and physical incompetence make him difficult to put up with. There can be a charm to geeky characters, but Felix is just too dorky, to the point where it's almost insufferable. We're meant to care that this guy is in danger from an island of murderous monsters, but he's not likable enough to make me root for his survival. Francesca starts off as an interesting femme fatale, a devious secretary who goes against her boss and plans a seedy murder. There's something alluring yet untrustworthy about her. Many have compared her to Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But once she randomly falls in love with Felix, her personality and motive completely shift, and she's reduced to a damsel in distress for Felix to protect. The whiplash that Francesca's character development goes through could give you a heart attack. It's that freaking jarring. Baron Frankenstein may be a dangerous scientist who has played God and invented a chemical for destruction, but he's actually the most mellow and dignified character in the film. He also seems genuinely loving towards his nephew and takes great pride in passing down his role to the young man. It just bugs me that the Baron barely appears in this movie, just so the monsters can try and kill Felix without being noticed. The monster's mate and Dracula are the creatures who get the most screen time out of all the guests, while the rest are kind of sidelined, and only appear to do quick little gags related to their physical attributes. Unfortunately, the monster's mate and Dracula are also the most irritating of all the guests, with Dracula being an obnoxious loudmouth and the mate spending the whole movie screeching at her husband or making terrible, awful jokes. I'm going to give 2 points to the characters. Like many Rankin Bass films, the animation for this movie was produced in Japan. Rankin Bass often referred to their animation style as animagic. Sounds whimsical, doesn't it? So what makes this technique so magical? Does it involve a wizard's beard, an enchanting spellbook, or the feather of a burning phoenix? No, it's nothing special. Animagic is just a fancy, marketable way of saying stop motion. Even though this is one of Rankin Bass's theatrical films, it's not exactly any grander or more impressive than one of their TV projects. The animation is very jittery, awkward and fidgety. It's rather crude and unrefined. However, while the animation is incredibly flawed, I can actually see the love and effort that's gone into it. The animators are trying their best to give lively personalities and vivid physical gestures to these characters. Yes, it's all wobbly and sometimes even inarticulate, but I can trace what the animators were going for. And of course, I commend the animators for being able to stop motion animate something this ambitious without using any computer assistance. I'm a stop motion animator myself. I could never imagine being able to animate my models without Dragon Frame or Stop Motion Pro. The very idea scares me. So while the animation for Mad Monster Party is notably clunky, I can at least give the animators a pat on the back for trying their best. I'm going to give 3 points to the animation. A wide majority of the characters in this film are actually voiced by Alan Swift. While I do commend him for taking on such a grand, ambitious task, I found his voice performances to be quite grating. Most of these voices are just poor impersonations of famous celebrity actors, which comes off as distractingly gimmicky, because we know it's an impressionist trying to copy the cadences of recognisable actors and not acting as these characters.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I lost my glasses and can't see a thing.
I've heard that one before.
Don't know if you're coming or going, do you, yet?
I'm so excited, Doctor. I haven't seen all of our old friends in years. I got so nervous and excited and nervous and...
How do you do, gentlemen? Could you tell me the fare to the Isle of Evil? Another one. We don't usually stop at the Isle of...
That'll be $100. And with your fancy cape and tuxedo and all, I think you could afford it.
Gail Garnett voices Francesca, and I really liked her voice. It's very husky and sultry, really fits a femme fatale character.
Come, let me kiss you. Women have died for one of my kisses. I'm terrific.
Stop this foolishness. You're as bad as that zombie, Yetch. Besides, I'm not interested in that sort of thing. I want to talk to you about Dr. Frankenstein's secrets.
The legendary Boris Karloff voices Baron Frankenstein and manages to give him a very sweet and sincere voice. I do believe that a lot of the likability of this character stems from Karloff's voiceover. It's so affectionate.
I've grown a little tired of this horror business, doing bad for others and very rarely getting any bad in return. And now that I've mastered my greatest discovery, I'd like to retire while I'm on top.
Phyllis Diller voices the monster's maid, a character I already found quite annoying, but made even more irritating by Diller's coarse and shrieking voice. Don't get me wrong, I usually like Diller's voice performances, but this was just awful.
Bird watching again, Fang. Do you forget the last time you had a roving eye? I kept it in a jar for a week.
I'm going to give 2 points to the voice acting. While the music for this movie can be very jazzy, funky and upbeat, I don't think much of it fits the tone of the movie's universe. Sure, this kind of music fits a party, but like I said, that's a very small part of the movie. Most of the music is clearly a sound of the times, another attempt to seem hip to 60s youth rather than providing appropriate compositions that capture the world of classic horror movie monsters. I mean, where's the harpsichord or a spooky theremin? I know these are obvious choices, but they're instruments we associate with this setting, and they work for a reason. Also, quite a few pieces are strangely similar to music you'd hear in James Bond, which is odd and not exactly fitting. Sometimes I felt like one of these monsters was about to reveal their secret spy identity, or release a fancy nifty gadget to kill Felix with. I'm cool with a music score going against the norm or expected, but different for the sake of different doesn't always work. This film is also a musical, and even though the songs are fun and campy with a variety of styles and genres, most of them don't seem to have a point beyond stretching the film out longer. Apparently the songwriters wanted all these tracks to push the story forward, but I'm afraid that I can't say many of them succeeded. And again, some of these songs are scenes that could have been easily cut out from the film. I'm going to give 2 points to the music. To conclude, while I understand and respect that this film has gained a cult following and holds a nostalgic place in a lot of people's hearts, personally, I don't think it's aged very well. I found it to be unfunny, cheesy, mediocre, overpadded and boring. Mad Monster Party has gained 10 points, which translates to 2 spooky strawberries out of 5. If you enjoyed the Hotel Transylvania films, I think you might like Mad Monster Party. I'd just like to point out that the graphics for this video were produced by Toongrin. If you'd like to request commissions from them, here's their website on screen. I've been Jambareeqi and I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, then feel free to subscribe to my channel because I make a lot of videos quite like this one. Also, please consider making a monthly pledge to my Patreon. It will be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So, which film am I going to be reviewing in the next episode of Jambareeqi Reviews? Well, that's entirely up to you folks. That's right, I've left a poll in the description box below for you all to take part in. Oh, and happy Halloween folks. And YouTube, if you're listening out there, Please don't demonetize this video. Please. I've got to pay my rent. I've got to afford food. Is the Halloween spirit? Find it in you. Please. Look into your conscience. Look into your heart. I know that deep down YouTube cares. Oh, fuck's sake!